I have a very special guest today, Senator Robert Martwick, Democratic senator representing 10th District in the Illinois Senate. Welcome, Senator. Thank you for taking your time and spending it with us.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's great to be here with you today.
It is a special guest because this is our Polish senator in Springfield, Illinois. I think you're the most Polish out of the lineup that we have right now.
You know, I wouldn't judge anyone. I would just say that my Polish heritage is something that throughout my life has been an important part of my family life growing up. And it's just something we've clung to and celebrated, and it's something that when I started serving in the General Assembly, it was something that I was proud to bring to the General Assembly, is sharing that culture and that heritage.
And we're going to prove it to you. We have several solid proofs, but let me start from the beginning.
Sure.
How Polish actually are you? Let's talk about your family.
Sure. So people probably look at my name, Martwick, and say, that's not Polish, and they're correct. So 3 of my 4 grandparents were fluent Polish speakers. The 4th one, my dad's dad, was English and German, so that's where I get the name from. But we are products of that, you know, the Polish migration and the American melting pot, right? So my grandmother came to Chicago from Warsaw. Her name was Frances Wierciuk, and of course she married Richard Martwick, and that's where I get my name from. My other 2 grandparents came from that area of Poland near Prussia, where they have Germanic names, but they were Polish, fluent Polish speakers. All of their culture was Polish, but they were farmers, and so they emigrated to deep southern Illinois, and so their names were Cecilia Dahlman and Felix Lefner, very German names, but they didn't speak a word of German. They were Polish through and through, and so they moved. My grandfather was the youngest of 13, moved to Chicago to make money to buy a farm for himself, but by the time he had enough money to go back and buy a farm, my mom was 16 and had fell in love with my dad, and so we stayed here in Chicago. But yeah, so we come from 2 waves of Polish immigration, one to Southern Illinois and one to Chicago, and that's my background. The Wierciuk family, actually, since we're here, my uncle was very active. I believe he was the first vice president of the PNA.
Polish National Army.
Yeah, Emil Kolasa. So I think he passed in the 70s when I was, but I believe he was first vice president of the PNA, and my grandmother was part of the Polish Red Cross in World War II. Yeah,
and that shows. Your love of Polish heritage shows everywhere. Very recently, we had the pleasure of listening you speak at the Polish Museum of America at the General Pulaski Day here in Illinois. You are a regular at that event, and not just that.
That is an important event for me as a Polish American, because I look at General Pulaski as one of the true first Polish Americans. And so often when I go to that event, and when I spoke this last time I spoke of it, to me the message of General Pulaski, so many people focus on the history and the sacrifice, which we should, but to me it's more of the why. And that is, General Pulaski was willing to sacrifice his life, but not for something that he could have. He knew that whatever he fought for, he would never see it in his lifetime. But he was willing to make that sacrifice for the next generation. And to me, that's the message that I take, is promoting, making sure that we're constantly looking to the next generation of leaders and promoting them.
And reinforcing that message, I look at you as a Polish ambassador right there in Springfield. And every year, you bring a truckload of pączkis and distribute them in Springfield. Let's talk about that action.
Sure. So I've been involved through my family's involvement. My father was president of the Advocate Society and very active in all things in Polonia. And of course, central to that was the good work of the Polish American Association. And I've known so many of my friends who've served on the board, and the good works that they do, really that hard work of serving those most in need.
Yes.
And my family took advantage of it when they were immigrants here. It was an important part of their assimilation and acclimation to a new country. And so when I got elected and I knew what they did for a fundraiser, I thought, what another great opportunity to both promote the good work of the Polish American Association, to support them financially, and to bring and share my culture and my heritage with members of the General Assembly. And it's been an interesting experience. When we first started 14 years ago, there were a lot of people who, you know, sometimes when you speak on the floor of the General Assembly, it's not like a school. People are not quiet and always listening as well as they should. So people didn't really understand, and they were like, they would come up to me afterwards and say, these are the most amazing donuts. And I would say, but they're not.
Yeah.
And it created this opportunity for me to share what the significance of pączki was, what it meant. And then over the course of the last 14 years, it's grown from people not knowing why I brought donuts to immediately asking me, when's pączki day? When are the pączki coming? And so it's something that people really look forward. And what I love about it is multicultural. I can tell you one of my colleagues, Senator Stanu Illinois, who is represents the Southwest Side, very, very Mexican community. And she says, I can't wait for pączki day. And that's what Illinois and what Chicago means, that cross-cultural sharing and celebrating our traditions, our unique traditions, but sharing them with other cultures.
100%.
So I love that.
And you do it the right way, from the beginning to the very end, because it starts not at any deli. You don't simply buy the pączkis at the deli store. You go to Polish American Association and you donate.
Yes.
Pretty much.
It is very important to me. And you know, I every year you will see certain politicians who like the idea of using it as a political opportunity. And I will never forget one particular very well-off politician showing up and taking a lot of pictures and grabbing 1 dozen box and then complaining about how much they cost. And I thought to myself, you do realize it's a fundraiser to help this organization,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
The benefit is you actually get some delicious pastries out of it.
That's
but
the whole point,
yeah.
to donate. And the end point, because you don't just take it to the Senate and to the House in Springfield. You visit firefighters, you visit some hospitals. Where do you take those pączki?
Yeah, I mean, we try to get them around to the community where people can be exposed to them, enjoy them, because once again, it is sharing the awareness of the Polish traditions and culture, but also sharing awareness of the Polish American Association and the good work that they do. So we take it to our local firefighters as a way of saying thank you for their service, to our libraries for those people who visit the libraries throughout the day. We take it to the veterans' homes. So we try and get it around the community, different places, senior citizen centers throughout the district, so that everyone can, you know, have a taste of enjoying the day. So.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for doing that.
Sure.
Can we go back in time several years? Young Rob Martwick. Have you ever thought about, when did you start thinking about getting into politics?
Oh my gosh.
Did you dream about career in Springfield or Washington or wherever?
So, you know, it's a year ago, this is a wonderful story. A year ago, the YMCA has a statewide youth and government program, which is wonderful. We support it and participate in it through my office. And I've always supported that financially because I believe, again, in the next generation, encouraging civic engagement. So they had a big convention in Springfield that they asked me to visit, and I sat with a table of students, and they asked a number of questions. And one of the students said, when did you know that you wanted to run for office? Yeah. And it was a funny story. I'll tell it to you the way I told it to the student. What I said was, well, I said, I first ran for the General Assembly in 2012, and I said, well, actually, that's not true. I ran in 1996 and lost.
Still in law school, right?
I lost, yeah, in 1996. I was still in law school, and I said, I said, well, but actually, when I ran for the state senate in 1996, I was already serving as a township trustee that I had run in 1993 while I was in law school. So that was probably the first, well, no, actually I was serving in student government in law school. So that, well, actually I served in student government in college. Well, now that I think about it, I served in student government in high school.
It was long.
And
time.
if I remember, I served in student government in 4th grade. And so, I think it's something that, again, my father preached involvement. He never held a political office himself. He was never elected to an office, but he was always helping others get elected. And he encouraged that with me, and it gave me the bug. And I guess it's something that I've always wanted to do. I've enjoyed that. I really enjoy the public service. It means a lot to me to do things that make a difference in people's lives and make them better.
You had it in you from the very beginning.
Yes, from the very beginning.
You pointed to your father, and he was a very prominent figure. Again, in Polish legal community also. He was heading the Polish Bar Association, the Advocate Society. So him, who else shaped you the way you are today?
Oh my gosh, I think of it, so much of my life was in the Polish community, growing up in the Polish community, and a person who I think about so many leaders and so many who have passed, my dad's contemporaries. My dad's going to be 89 years old this year, and so many of his contemporaries have passed. But I think of that engagement and that involvement shaping me. Certainly my uncle, who was an elected official and served for 20 years as the superintendent of schools, had a wonderful relationship with the Polish community, was always supported by the Polish community. And then when I think beyond that, I think of Mitch Kobylinski, who was a very dear friend of my father's. And my father was a Democrat. Mitch Kobylinski was the most loyal, hardcore Republican you have ever met in your life.
Were they able to talk?
Of course they were able to talk. They were colleagues, they were friends, and even though they didn't agree on politics, they remained the best of friends. They traveled together, they belonged to so many different organizations together, and till the very end they were dear friends. And I will never forget when I ran for state senate in 1996, that very first time when I lost. And Mitch Kobylinski, of course, one of the real founders of the Copernicus Foundation and the center, he pulled me aside one day and put his arm around me and said, kid, he said, I have never voted for a Democrat, never once in my life, but I'm going to vote for you.
Wow.
And that meant a lot to me, because it was about, we shouldn't be required to compromise on the things that we believe in, but we should always work together to support each other and find common ground so that we can advance our culture, advance our heritage, advance our society.
Wonderful. Because so many things are common, right? For the benefit of the people of Illinois, people of the United States, there should be a middle ground, and
absolutely
there should be ability to communicate on both sides of the aisle.
That's right, and not to delve too deep in the politics, but with what's going on today, what people don't realize because of the way the 24-hour news cycle works, is that there is so much that we agree on and that we're unified in, and yet we pull ourselves apart when we don't need to. And real leaders will work to find the commonality, not focus on the differences.
Yeah, so because I have this impression that sometimes a good bill is blocked by one side or the other simply because the other side put it forward.
Yes.
And do you see it that way also?
Yes, and there's no doubt that happens, and that's unfortunate. I have tried throughout. Bipartisanship is something that's been very important to me. In fact, there are members of the General Assembly on the Republican side who are new members who called me up and said, I'm having trouble, I can't pass a bill. And I gave them bills that they could pass, and I helped them pass their bills so that they could go back to their communities and say, see, I was able to accomplish something in Springfield. That's what you should do. You should work to find common ground. You should work to help your colleagues. You don't have to compromise your core beliefs to do that, but there is so much in common that we share. We just have to be willing to put down our guard and help each other and see each other as fellow human beings.
100%.
Yeah.
So how does the day in the life of a state senator in Illinois look like? How much time do you spend in Springfield? How much time do you spend with your constituents here in Chicago?
Well, it is a little bit of a joke. They always say, is it full-time or a part-time commitment? I say it's a part-time job, which is great, because that way, after working at it 80 hours a week part-time, I can practice law full-time, right? It is an enormous commitment, but it is a commitment of love. Like I said, I really, really wake up every day with a smile on my face, ready to go to work. We spend about half the year in Springfield.
Okay.
I'm going to be leaving. Today's a Monday. I'll be leaving as soon as I finish here and on my way down to Springfield, and we'll be until Friday. I come home on the weekends, but my weekends are usually filled with outreach events where I deal with constituents. And then in the summer, when we have our time off, in the summer, our summer break, that is filled with doing constituent work. And the work, of course, is that there are so many people who government can serve, and government is available to serve, and yet they don't know how to take advantage of what we have to offer. And so what we do is we spend a lot of time doing outreach, which is just basically finding ways to creatively get ourselves in front of people and make sure that they know if they need us, how to find us. And we've been very successful with our outreach and making sure that people can access our office. And so that when they do, then we can serve them, connect them, help solve their problems.
It's got to be a dialogue, right?
Yeah.
Conversation, constant conversation between the elected official and the constituents.
Yes, and again, especially with what goes on today, we have to make sure that all of our constituents know. Because I'm a Democrat, my job is to serve all of my constituents, whether they're Democrats, whether they're Republicans, whether they're independents, whether they don't vote at all. If they need government, our job is to service them, and we want them to know that our office is available, willing, and we will do it with a smile on our face.
Awesome. Okay, so let's talk some politics now.
Yeah.
We could hear the governor deliver the State of the State address fairly recently. How do you see the state of Illinois as it is right now, especially in context of the budget discussion that you are just about to face?
Yeah, I mean, Illinois has made, I don't think anybody is surprised when we say that Illinois is facing a lot of really challenging financial problems. This is not new. Illinois has been facing financial problems for decades, for 50 years. Over the course of the last 7 years, there's been tremendous progress, but 50 years of decline cannot be overcome by 7 years of progress. So very slowly, we have been doing positive things. We've paid down $12 billion in current debt. We've paid down our pension debt, but again, there's so much that paying it down is, we're making incremental progress. We have a long way to go. We have 40 years before we get a hold of that problem. But we've received 10 credit upgrades in the process, so
recently.
people are looking at Illinois and saying, you're on the right track. Now, unfortunately, there was a massive sea change in the federal government. And whatever your opinion is on the right, the wrong, the good, bad of the policies, what is problematic for Illinois financially is that we've lost the reliability of the federal government. So there are federal programs that we don't know whether or not we can rely on them, and that creates financial instability at a time when we're just kind of making some real progress. So it's creating a problem right now. We are trying to sort through those problems. We're trying to work with the federal government to secure that sort of funding, but we are looking at a current budget deficit. And so, you know, we're going to do what we've been doing for the last 7 years. We've been faced with them. Governor Pritzker's first year, even last year, we were faced with big budget deficit projected. We worked our way through them. We solved them.
Awesome.
The financial industry saw that and said, good work. We've got to continue that good progress this year.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be less federal money coming to Illinois. Now, do you see that the citizens of Illinois will have to make up for that? Do you see any tax increases on the horizon?
Well, I think we're always looking at ways to secure the revenues that we need to deliver the services that are required, right? That's at a core minimum. What I would say is that there is a great deal of will by members of the General Assembly to kind of start reforming our revenue system.
Okay.
So we've made financial progress to sort of get out of the structural hole, but now we feel like we need to modernize that system so as to give relief to the middle class and to give relief to our property taxes. We feel that, so the financial problems at Illinois that I talked about that have been happening for 50 years has led the state to provide less and less and less to education into services at the local level, which has caused a pressure up on property taxes. We would like to see certain members of the General Assembly are working on ways to restructure our tax system to drive more money to property taxes and bring those property taxes down.
Wow.
When we do that, that provides relief to everyone. It certainly provides the most relief to the middle class who are most overburdened by property taxes. But really, more than anyone else, it helps every business in the state of Illinois. The largest government-related expense to running a business in the state of Illinois is high property taxes. So if we can bring real property tax relief by restructuring our tax system, we could give our businesses more room to breathe, more room to be successful, and hopefully spur our economy.
Wow, awesome. Do you think you'll get a budget approved in time? Should we be afraid of any threats of government shutdown?
I think that's, I think we always have to be cognizant of it, but what I would say is that over the course of the last 8 years now, we have, we lived through that chaos back when we had the budget stalemate in 2015. And that was so painful and it caused so much damage that I think that there's enough institutional memory that we are acutely aware that we need to avoid that. I do believe, and I will tell you, we came real close to a standoff last year, and I mean the last hours. And I sat down with colleagues of mine who were concerned about what the budget looks like. And I said to them, as we passed our budget last year, they said, this is a bad budget. And I said, I agree, it's a terrible budget. It's the worst budget I've seen in a long time. And they said, well, why are you voting for it? I said, because there's one thing worse than a bad budget, and that's no budget at all. So difficult finances require difficult solutions, but the solutions, getting to them is the most important thing. I'll bring that message to my colleagues again as we work towards solving this budget crisis. Our job is to work within what we have, to find ways to fund the programs that are most essential, but to pass that budget to keep government working. That's the best thing for everyone in Illinois.
Now, my favorite subject.
Yes.
The beloved Chicago Bears. Will they continue playing in Illinois? Should we really be worried about them moving to Indiana?
So what I would say is they're an independent business. They're not owned by the state of Illinois. We don't, believe it or not, we can't even stop them from using the word Chicago. Huh. They could move to, never mind Indiana, they could move to Texas and call themselves the Chicago Bears. They have a trademark on that. So they're an independent business. What I would say is that having grown up in Chicago and spent every Sunday watching the Bears with my dad, the memories I have and the history that this franchise has, I am very, very aware of. I'm not sure how aware they are of that history. And I don't know how much it's factoring into their decisions. So what I would say is it's complicated. We want the Bears to be here. I want the Bears to be in Chicago. I think they need to be in Chicago, and I think that there are options to make it work. Now, that being said, if their decision is strictly business and Indiana is going to give away the farm and bring the Bears there, we can't match that. It's not possible. We have commitments on Soldier Field. We still owe $530 million, and that is a responsibility of the taxpayers of Illinois. And so we have to weigh wanting to have that franchise here, which I certainly do. Ultimately, they can decide whatever they want. I think they have to decide what commitment they want to make. The last stadium deal has left us with a financial burden that we have to solve. And, I am open to tax incentives. I am open to creative solutions. But if it is just simply like, well, you have to give us everything and it's all the taxpayers' responsibility to pay for us to be successful, I don't know that we're going to be able to get there. If Indiana wants to do that, I don't know that we can compete with that. So we'll see how it works out. But I hope to continue talking. I had a long conversation on Friday with representatives of the Chicago Bears, and I'm really hopeful that we can continue to work towards a deal. But it has to be beneficial for the bears, but it has to be beneficial for the taxpayers of the state of Illinois. It cannot be their responsibility to pay for a team that the vast majority of people who live in Chicago can't afford to go watch at the stadium.
What is it that the Bears actually want? Because they say, what, they want to build a stadium and just need the state's help to surround it with facility, provide the...
That's already been offered, is to offer, the governor has offered incredible infrastructure improvements in order to help it. We're happy to talk with them. The problem is that what they're looking for is they're looking for substantial reductions in their property taxes. And again, when you know that people are suffering with high property taxes, the idea is that I don't want the Bears to be crushed by high property taxes, but I don't want you or me or the coffee shop or the print shop to be crushed by high property taxes either. And so we have to find a way to give the Bears some tax certainty, but it cannot be just a giveaway to them. They cannot operate, they can't own their own stadium and pay taxes like it's owned by the government. It's got to be some sort of fair sharing arrangement, and we'll keep talking and keep working on it.
Yeah, let's hope the agreement will be made.
Yes.
We want them here.
I do, so bad. I mean, again, it has been such an important part of my life, is my, being a part of that fan base, and I want them here, my neighbors want them here, my family wants them here. We're going to work towards it with them, but ultimately it's their decision.
Yeah. Now let's talk about the pieces of legislature that you're working on that are near and dear to your heart, and let's start the most recent ones.
Sure.
The AI education bill. That's a very forward-thinking and very important bill.
Yeah, I mean, the advent of AI is coming upon so rapidly. It's replacing jobs. I think about my nephew, who 4 years ago went to college and looking to, right out of high school, what should I major in? Somebody said, major in computer science, because you have a guaranteed six-figure job and they need people in the industry. 4 years later, by the time he graduated, there are no jobs and they don't need anyone in that industry, because AI has completely replaced the need for that industry, almost in completely, right? So the AI is changing our world so quickly, but it's sort of the Wild West. And so we are attempting to create regulations around it. This bill was brought to me by young students who came to me and said the use of AI needs to be regulated in college and in educational scenarios. I passed a bill back in 2019 that prior to AI, the advent of AI, reined in the use of data mining and technology of students that they're putting in. But AI now with biometric recognition, we are trying to come up with comprehensive solutions and try to keep up, right? We're never going to get ahead of it. AI is too fast. But we have to make sure, I think it's really important that government is attempting to rein in and regulate and contain the use of AI so that students can have an educational experience without being, without being abused without having all of their information and their data stolen to make other people wealthy. So that's what we're trying to do, is trying to contain that. It's a really forward-thinking piece of legislation.
100%. We will never be able to control it. It's evolving too fast.
It is.
But I'm really happy that the legislators are keeping an eye on it, and that is making an attempt to control it.
Yeah.
The second bill that I want to talk about is a so-called grocery bill.
Oh yeah.
What is that about? Consumer protection has been, again, something that you pay very close attention to.
It has been forefront on what I do. I feel like there are too many instances where the way that people, and listen, I am a capitalist. I believe in business, and I believe if you work hard and you make extreme wealth, I celebrate you and I'm happy for you. But it cannot be made by taking advantage of other people. One of the things that's been happening is the use of these digital coupons in grocery stores. And where I find a problem with that is that consumer protection law was built around the concept of bait and switch. Let me offer you a price that gets you into the store, that baits you into the store, and then when you arrive at the store, you wind up paying a completely different price. And we said, in the United States of America, decades ago, we said, that won't happen. And yet, With
still
the advent of technology, we found a way to get around that. And so these digital coupons, they advertise in the store these wonderful prices. But you're required to download the app, scan, clip the coupon, and then ensure that it gets taken off at the register. To me, this is a way of taking advantage of the people who need the most protection, and I'm talking about people who are not well versed in technology, so we're talking about senior citizens, and we're talking about people where English is a second language.
Immigrants, just like us.
Yes. And so it definitely affects immigrant communities. And the idea that the people who most need a good deal are the ones who are going to pay for the deal by paying more than everyone else. And I find that distasteful, and so I have a bill that would require anything that is advertised in the store. If you advertise the price in the store, it must be redeemed at the register without the use of any technology. And so we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, awesome. And the third one is about the automatic enrollment for deferred compensation. And it's not just for service members, it's not just for police officers, firefighters, it's for
well,
everybody.
it's for everyone, and so this bill specifically speaks to public sector employees because I have the most control over them. But throughout my career, I have really worked on retirement security. I believe that when we talk about the loss of the middle class, a lot of that revolves around retirement security. Certainly we know it's gotten harder and harder for middle class people to earn a living and just get by. But where it really gets difficult is when we've seen retirement security go away. That used to be the thing. You used to be able to get a job, have a house, take care of a family, and then in the end, you could retire with dignity, and we're seeing a loss in that. So I've been really focused on promoting laws that promote retirement security. I've done that in the private sector. I've worked with our Illinois State Treasurer, Michael Frericks, on what's called Secure Choice, which creates access to IRA retirement savings for every employee in the state. Even if you work an hourly job, your account follows you, and your employer, every time you change job, your employer must make contributions on your behalf. So we begin to create retirement savings for everybody, even in the private sector. But in the public sector, we have more control over it. We made changes to our state pension system. People said our pension system was too robust. We changed it in order to save money, but we made it so austere that you cannot retire on that pension system alone. You must have retirement savings. Creating a system of automatic enrollment just means that you go into a supplemental retirement savings program automatically. You can always opt out. But what we see is that when we take that proactive step for them, we have substantially higher savings rates. More people participate and they save. Who's that good for? Well, it's good for them.
For sure.
Because when they retire with security and dignity. But it's good for society. 20% of consumer spending is driven by retirees spending their excess savings. How much do they spend if they don't have any excess savings? Nothing.
Right.
So by creating the system where they're saving more, what we're doing is we're actually ensuring that future generations will have better economies because people have money to spend and drive that economy.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those bills that it's not necessarily addressing an urgent problem right now, but looking forward.
It is, and when we started this back in 2015 with the very first statewide automatic enrollment bill, we led the nation, and now it is the standard is to enroll people automatically because they've seen the benefits of it. Just before we had automatic enrollment, when employees had to proactively enroll, when they had to seek out their employer and say, I'd like to enroll this program, we had 28% participation of our employees. Since we automatic enroll, we have 95% participation. And savings are growing. People are going to have better outcomes. They're going to be more secure. And as an employer, right, they're not just my employees. We're all government. I'm a representative, but it's your government too. So they're your employees, and we know that they're going to be better prepared for their retirement and help everyone because of it.
Let's look at your career in the state Senate as a whole, and let's talk about things that really were at the forefront of your legal activity. Tax fairness is, I think, the number one on that list.
Yeah, without a doubt. I guess I'm a numbers guy, right? I have a property tax background, and so I like to look and analyze numbers. And I don't take things on their face. I look at them and I say, is that right? Let me look at these numbers. And I've thankfully, since I got into the General Assembly, that gives me access to so many groups that can actually run number scenarios for me. What I found is that Illinois' property tax system puts more of a burden on middle class and working class families than any other tax system in the United States of America. In fact, if you are in the middle class or working class in Illinois, if you are making between $75,000 and $200,000 a year and you live in Illinois, you have the highest individual tax burden. That means all the taxes you pay, income, sales, property, and fees and fines. You have the highest individual tax burden of anyone, of any income stratus in the United States of America. That's right.
Wow.
And to me, that is fundamentally wrong. Everyone has different economic theories. I'm an economist. That was my degree in college. And I am a big believer in Keynesian economics. I believe in when you empower the middle class, that is the consumers. And when they are empowered, they spend money and they drive demand. I don't think it's the other way around. So when they put the burden by going out and spending, I think that is the best driver of our economy. And we continue to squeeze the middle class with our economic policies. And so I believe that the best way that we can do this is create a fair system where we have a tax burden that is more evenly spread. And it will never be evenly. The reality of it is that the more you make, the less of your income you'll spend on housing. So even though the idea of property taxes is flat, people who make more will always spend less on their property taxes than people who make less. That's right. And so we can restructure our property tax and our income tax system so that we are giving relief to the middle class and still funding the essential services that middle class people need to get ahead in life, right? And that's the other thing. We're the land of opportunity. If we're not driving money to education and higher ed so that kids have the opportunity, I don't want to hand anything to anybody. I just want to give them an opportunity to be successful, and that's what we need to do. And we can do that by creating a system that's more fair.
Yeah, and the middle class is the salt of the earth, honestly. They're the drivers, and they are squeezed the most. Like the wealthy even have means to pay less taxes. They can utilize all the tricks at their disposal to pay as little as possible.
And it's the reality of it. Over the course of the last 70 years or so, every tax change that has happened has created more and more loopholes to allow people who make, and I don't mean people making even $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 a year. I'm not talking about that. Those people are still exceptionally overburdened by taxes.
Yes.
But what I'm talking about is the people at the very top, the top 1/2 of 1%, is there are so many loopholes to allow them to go years without paying any taxes at all. And we saw that, I mean, even with our current president, we all know he is a very successful entrepreneur, a very successful businessman. He's a billionaire. He went nearly a decade without paying a single penny in taxes. And to me, that's fascinating. I can't imagine that you could accumulate that much wealth without participating.
Without contributing.
Taxes are horrible. We hate them, but they are paying them is in a sense, it's patriotic. It pays for our troops, it pays for our police officers, it pays for the education of our children, it pays for the health care for people who are sick and needy, it feeds the poor. It is part of our obligation to society, and everyone should contribute to their ability in a fair amount. And right now it feels like we've just squeezed the middle class and pushed too much on them, and we need to relieve that burden.
Yeah, we have to make it more equal, 100%. Customer protection and retirement security. We spoke about those, but it's not just the pieces of legislation that we discussed before. It's a project that lasts 4 years.
They are, and it's so much of what drives me, and again, it is sort of, I represent that real heart of the middle class and where I live, right? That's my community. And I see my neighbors and I see the struggles and I see the changes to the middle class, and all of those things, creating opportunities for the middle class, relieving the tax burden on the middle class, making sure that what the hard-earned wages they make are not being stolen by people who realize that they're too busy to pay attention to the fine print. and ensuring that everyone has a safe and secure retirement so they can retire with dignity. Those are important aspects to me. One of the most proud things I worked on was with the Treasurer of the State of Illinois, which was the Unclaimed Life Insurance Benefits Act. Something very important. And really all it did was it put in place a series of notifications to ensure that when someone who is a policyholder of a life insurance policy dies, that those companies that hold those policies are making sure to notify beneficiaries so they can come forward and claim the policy benefits that were paid for their behalf.
They cannot just remain silent and keep the money.
That's right. And since we've done that, we've moved $650 million into the hands of, and I point this out, widows, widowers, and orphans. That's who are the beneficiaries of life insurance policies. And my proudest day as a state senator was when I held a senior fair, and a retired police officer who was in really bad shape, middle class, salt of the earth, as you said, came to my event, shook my hand, and told me that he was having big financial difficulty. He had been taken advantage of by a caregiver who had stolen from him. And as luck would have it, he sat down at the treasurer's table, went through the iCash thing that the treasurer has, and in that moment we found a unclaimed life insurance policy that his wife had bought. And I was able to 2 weeks later deliver him a check for $120,000.
That's world of a difference.
It was. He was about to lose his home, and he was able to keep his home and stay in his home. And I don't know how much time he has left, but that time that he has left, he will live it with dignity and with security because we were able to pass that law. So that sort of is the sort of legislation that motivates me. And like I say, when I arrive in Springfield, I have a spring in my step and a smile on my face because I know every day I have an opportunity to make somebody's life better.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Thank you for doing that work. There's one more thing I want to talk about. April 29th is going to be one of the most important dates in the calendar, right before the May 3rd parade. We want to go to Springfield. We want to meet with you, bring some people from Poland. Marshal of Senate of Poland is indicating her willingness to go with us. What can we see? I mean, I strongly encourage everybody to go and see our state capitol any time of the year, any day. What kind of experience is going to be?
I will tell you, and thank you for saying that, because everyone should see their state capitol. And I know it's a 3-hour drive at Springfield, but there are wonderful historical sites. Of course, all of the history around Abraham Lincoln.
Yes.
You can see his home, his tomb. You can see a desk that he sat in when he served in the Illinois General Assembly before he became a congressman. You can see there's so much history there. And there's so much wonderful history in the state of Illinois. And we have one of the most beautiful Capitol buildings in the United States of America. We really do. It's a point of pride for us. We, of course, in the General Assembly welcome opportunity for foreign dignitaries to come and have that interaction where governments are interacting, especially foreign governments. And in Illinois, we love to do that. The idea that I get to do that for my home country, for my heritage, for my culture, is very exciting for me. So my office is working very hard with our representatives in the Illinois Senate to make sure that we have a red carpet experience for everyone who comes to visit on that day on April 29th. We are going to celebrate Polonią. We're going to celebrate the unique position that Illinois has had as being one of the top welcoming states for immigrants from Poland throughout all of the many waves of immigration and the partitions of Poland. When immigrants were sent or were looking for a place to land, they came here to Illinois, and they were welcomed by this wonderful Polonią that grew up through these waves of immigration, helping each other succeed. Business communities, places like the Polish National Alliance, and we've been able to, we're really looking forward to celebrating that. So it's going to be a wonderful day. There's going to be all sorts of festivities. It's in the planning, but we are going to celebrate everything about that day and that, make it a real red carpet day for the dignitaries for Polonią, whether foreign or local. We want to make sure that everyone knows that this is their state capital, and we're going to give them the red carpet tour and hopefully get all the dignitaries involved. There will be a big reception afterwards. Our state treasurer, who is a huge supporter of Polonia, yes, Michael Frericks, is going to have a big reception at his facility that he has right across the street from the old state capitol. And it's, well, we're going to invite all the legislators to come and participate. It's going to be great.
We're going to invite them for pierogi, which are not normally available in Springfield, so we have to take them from Chicago. Polish caucus, that's another thing that was on your mind for a very long time, and it looks like it will finally happen. How important is it going to be for the community?
I think it's important, you know, to have, again, when we think of the significance of Polonia as a part of the fabric of Illinois and Chicago, you know, there are so many people who are serving in the General Assembly who, like me, might not have an identifiable Polish name, but they have Polish heritage. And the idea of a Polish caucus is simply to bring them together to celebrate that heritage so that we can identify those things that happen throughout the year, whether it's legislatively or just government service, that help our shared heritage, that help Polonia. And so I think having a Polish caucus is something that's long overdue in Springfield, and I look forward to making it happen.
Thank you so much. There's a lot of thank yous, honestly. The longer I listen to that conversation, the more things we should be thankful to you. We're looking forward to the 29th. It's going to be a great event. Very soon we'll open the registration, so keep your ears up. Pretty soon we're going to give you more details.
Yeah, that's great. And listen, I just want to say this. I appreciate the gratitude, but what I would say is that the gratitude really is mine. Like I said, public service is a choice. I know that I could make money doing other things and probably more of it, but the idea of being a public servant and being able to do things that improve people's lives is the greatest benefit of all, and there's no money that could ever compensate me for it. Doing this day of action for Polonia, creating a Polish caucus, is part of the things that I should be doing, because it is part of my public service, and it is the gratitude is for the community for coming together and promoting that civic engagement that I hold so dear, so that we can encourage that next generation, like General Pulaski wanted us to be engaged, to be involved, and be the next leaders.
Perfect. That's a wonderful book cover to our conversation, but let me finish with some information about where to find you. So go to senatormartwick.com. The website is displayed right over here throughout our conversation. So if you want to find out more information about our senator in Springfield, go there. But where else can people find you?
Well, I'm on social media. I'm lucky enough to have wonderful people who help me navigate the ever-changing tides of social media. A good friend of mine, Daniel Pogorzelski, is a wonderful social media advocate. Yes, well, he's the best. He is my little brother that I never had, and it was one of the greatest moments of pride for me was to help him get elected countywide, and I hope to have him back in another elected office soon, because he is such a great representative of our community and of Polonia. He exudes everything it is to be a Polish American and celebrates it so robustly. So he helps me with my social media, but you can find me on Instagram and on Facebook. We have just started a new outreach into TikTok, so we're going to try and keep up with the latest. But you can find me usually everywhere. It's either at Robert Martwick or at Senator Martwick. Either way, you can find me on those two. If you search either of those monikers, you'll find me.
Perfect. And please do. Start at senatormartwick.com and follow the senator on social media. Senator, thank you so much. It was a wonderful conversation. First of many, I hope, because we want to see you here every time there is a new piece of legislation that's important to you and an issue that you want to address and share it with Polish community.
Thank you. I relish the opportunity, and every time whether it's coming here or coming to, as I told you, my uncle was the first vice president here, so whether it's coming here or coming to the Copernicus Center or going to the Polish American Association, every time I walk in one of those institutions, I feel like I've come home.
You are.
And so thank you for having me today. It's great to reconnect, and I look forward to future visits.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.